Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all. So happy to have Chin and Dr. Tabitha with us. They are some pro pitchers and some great storytellers. So happy you guys are here and can't wait for the session.
Day, thank you so much. If you don't know me, I'm Gabby Eichenlaub. I'm program director at StitchCrew.
Yes, I'm program coordinator here at Stitch Crew.
To kind of get this session started, I want to let you know a little bit about what to expect for this next hour, right? So we are, of course, joined by two incredible speakers. They have such rich and unique perspectives to what it means to really tell your story in a way, not just tell your story, right, but in a way that really connects with other people and that moves people to act, right? So we have some questions to kick off the conversation, but we don't want this to be just a session where you join to listen. We really want you guys to engage. So as the session goes on, if you can drop your thoughts, your comments, takeaways, anything that comes to mind in the chat. Like I said, we had a poll at the beginning of the session. The question was, how comfortable right now are you really pitching your business? We had a couple people say they feel at a 9, they feel super confident, ready to pitch wherever they are. So that's so great. But the majority of us are really stuck in that 6 to 3 range, actually. So hopefully this session will kind of help answer those questions, kind of build that confidence up a little bit too. You know, we often think of pitching as something that's just reserved for investors or formal presentations, but in reality, anytime that you're talking about your business to someone, you're pitching, right? You're telling them about your story, whether it's for a potential customer or partner or even someone you just met. Telling your story is a way for them to really understand not only what it is that you do, but why it matters. That's what this session is all about. We want to help you get clear and confident when you talk about your business. So the next time someone asks you what it is that you do, you have a story ready. And not only a story that's ready, but a story that sticks, right? So we do also have a lot of people here with different stages of their business, different industries, and we want to know where you are at right now. I'm going to introduce the panel, but while we are introducing the panel, I would love to hear from you. If you can please drop in the chat your name, your company, but most importantly, what it is that you're curious about in today's session. What made you want to join? So Dr. Tabitha, Chin, thank you so much for joining us today. We shared your bios, your incredible bios, in the session reminder before today's session, but we want to just expand on that a little bit. So if you both can give us your elevator pitch, but not only that, what is different in your story that you tell now, whether it's in your voice or your story? What's different today that wasn't there at the beginning?
Hi, everyone. My name is Chin. It's pronounced like your chin. And I'm the founder of Chin Doan Marketing and Media LLC. So I spent 13 years as a TV news anchor and reporter. So I spent 13 years pitching stories every day to my managers in hopes that they approve those stories. And then I go out and tell those stories. So now I took all of my knowledge, experiences, and contacts, and I help people, businesses, and nonprofits shape their stories and tell their stories in meaningful ways, make sure it's authentic, and make sure it's aligns with their strategies. So I act as their marketing strategist, their business coach, and their agent. So we work into their goals, into how they want their stories to be told, what stories do they want it to be told, and what is the most strategic way? Is it on TV through a news story? Is it on a radio segment? Is it on a billboard? Is it in a 1-hour podcast in which you could really expand? Is it in a magazine? Is it in a newspaper? So we make sure their stories are authentic to them and align with their goals.
Love it. Thank you. Dr. T.
Your Girl Chocolate is a dairy-free chocolate that supports all healthy lifestyles. We help women with a sweet tooth satisfy their craving with an all-pleasure, no-guilt chocolate experience. That is the elevator pitch. And that pitch has changed, but that's okay. And what has really changed, what's really different, is my confidence. And I say the pitch changes because I think back when we first met, Gabby, I think I was calling it maybe either vegan or so calling it vegan. So my pitch has changed and my confidence has changed.
Yeah, so many. I've been following you as well and have seen so many iterations and so many different stories that have really stuck. Chin, what do you think is different from your story now to where you started as well, even as a journalist starting out?
13 years ago, I was a young journalist fresh out of college and trying to find my way, making sure that I'm confident on TV. When you're 22 years old and now you have this job in which you're on TV 5 days a week, live TV, and you're expected to be the expert every day in whatever subject that the manager assigns you to the story. You had to quickly learn. And that's one thing I would, encourage you all, to, no matter what industry you're in or what stage of your business you're in, is you have to learn to pivot. And that's what I did. There were days in my TV world in which I was assigned a story and then it got switched to another story, then back to that original story, and then to another story. My record was I had 6 stories in one day when I finally landed on one story. So, you all who are entrepreneurs can probably relate to that, right? You had this plan, but then you also had plan B and then plan C, then back to plan A and then plan D. But you make it work. I always somehow managed to have a story on TV, in the slot that I was supposed to have it in and go live with it. And it might have not been the original story I was assigned to, but we made it work because in the end, the goal was to get something on TV that was to serve the public, whatever story that may be. And so I think it's the same for, entrepreneurs. You have these goals and it might take you a long way to get there, or you might pivot multiple times, come back to that business, whatever. But your goal is always going to be to reach that goal for the business, whatever that goal might be.
So true. So, and already starting off with great tips and tricks. I want to kick this back to Jay real quick too. As we were introducing you guys, we had that question in the chat. So I want to see what is going on in the chat.
Yes. So Jose said he felt like this would be a place to get clarity on a pitch. So definitely, I think that's correct. Maria Collado said she'd like to learn a technique that she can use to tell her story and evolve her story. I think evolving your story, like you said, Chin, is really important. And Dr. Tabitha, your stories have evolved multiple times, and it has to, pivoting. Jess Kyle said she wants to refine her messaging around what she does because she believes in it, but she needs to make other people believe in it as well. I love that. And Giovanna said she would like her pitch to be a little bolder and with her communication so that people can easily understand. Yeah, those are some reasons why people are here today. So I think they came to the right spot.
Yeah. Hopefully we answer some of those, and if not, like I said, we have some questions to kick us off, but we will definitely leave some room at the end for any questions that weren't answered. Let's go ahead and jump into the session then. We've done a lot of programs, and we've really figured out that sometimes founders don't really struggle with what it is that they're doing. They struggle with explaining what they do and why they do it in a way that connects with the person on the other end. So before we talk about actually pitching and strategy, we want to start with where a founder's story really comes from and how to really tell it without overthinking it, right? I think that's key, how not to overthink it. So Chin, I'd love to start with you. What's the value in taking time to really clarify your story, even if you're not like really pitching right now?
Absolutely. I think we're all overthinkers in some way, myself included. And I think, regardless of, like Gabby said, whether you're pitching for somebody or not, or to somebody, you need to take time to reflect on who you are, what your business is, and who you want the world to see you as. There is your personal story, and then there's your business story. And those two don't have to necessarily be the same, but you do need to know what they are in order to share yourself to the world whenever that time may come. So it's similar to journaling, except this is more of looking back. I want you to sit down, take some time to reflect, make time in your busy schedule to have just some quiet time, whether it's 15 minutes in a day or a couple hours over the weekend, and just start writing. Just start writing. My name is Chin. I was born in Vietnam. Jotting down some fresh memories or way back memories before you forget them. Think about things that you've been through, struggles, happy moments, things that changed you, things that you witnessed that maybe traumatized you, things that like you want yourself to remember, and then possibly things that you want the world to know. And this is all just for you. Okay. So take time to do that. Then take some more time to read over what you have. And I want you to cut that in half. It's going to hurt. Just like in TV news, I would do a story that I'm so passionate about, and I got 3 good interviews. And my producer say, you know what, Chin, I'm sorry, but I'm only giving you a minute 30 to tell this story. Then I start narrowing it down. Okay, I'm only going to let each person have 1 soundbite. So that's 3 soundbites total. That gives me some time to weave in the facts and some storytelling, some creativity to still meet that quota of a minute 30, but I still get to have those 3 good sound bites representing those 3 people so I can have a widespread angle. It's the same with you, right? When we're telling stories, just like a good book has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has a climax, it has suspense, it has funny moments, it has you wanting more. So in that story throughout your life, I mean, obviously, depending on your age, you're going to probably write more because you have so many more stories in that life. But I want you to cut it in half. Take some time, then I want you to cut it in half again. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, now I'm at 25%. How can I tell my life story in 25%? Because we're thinking about different ways to pitch your story down the road, right? So, what if you only had a minute to pitch your story? You're going to try to get that 800 pages into a minute. I want you to be able to know different parts of your life enough yourself to be able to answer any questions down the road. When someone says, hey, tell me about a really sad moment that changed your life, or tell me about like a big achievement that you had that actually had nothing to do with money or status or something. So I want you to know your life so well enough that you're able to answer those questions in a genuine, meaningful way.
Yeah, and especially like you said, editing is sometimes so hard, editing yourself down. But it's so important, right? Especially when sometimes you only have a minute to really capture someone's engagement. And now with social media, sometimes even less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd love to ask you both, kind of going in that route too. What really shifts when a founder can get really clear on their story? What changes have you seen and how others respond? Chin, do you want to go ahead on this one first?
Yeah, I would say vulnerability. A lot of times when I'm meeting with my clients and I ask them to tell me their story, they'll mention their family and they'll mention some of their biggest achievements in their business or things like that. And then I'll say, okay, well, tell me something vulnerable. Tell me something that you wouldn't tell someone you just met. And then they're like, oh, wow. And then when they tell me, we have this instant connection, right? It's something so special about humans being vulnerable with each other. So I think first you need to be vulnerable with yourself, which is why I said to really write down everything. If things that have traumatized you, hurt you, made you sad, but those are things that have made you who you are today. And most likely those are things that have shaped you into your goals. And for me, it's poverty. I grew up in extreme poverty. And that's not something I would walk up to someone and say, hey, I was extremely poor. I lived in a hut and I didn't know what I was going to eat the next day. You don't necessarily tell someone that, but when you know that that's something that makes you vulnerable, but it's what connects you with a lot of people out there, and that's what propels me into what I do today. And I help my family in Vietnam. There's that connection. I was poor. My family in Vietnam, they're still poor. And so that's why I do what I do. I want to make sure that my business flourishes so that I can help my family in Vietnam. There's that connection. We all have some type of connection as soon as we're able to be vulnerable.
I love that. Sometimes it's so hard too, but if you can be vulnerable with yourself about even the hardest things, then being able to connect and be vulnerable about some of the smaller things becomes a little bit easier too, right?
Mhm.
Dr. Tabitha, I'd love to hear your perspective on this question as well.
Yeah, it's very important to be vulnerable, and clarity builds confidence, it builds trust. And when telling your story, it's very important that folks understand exactly what you do. I mean, we've all been in a space where, you hear what folks do and you have no idea, what they do. And when you don't know what they do, it's very hard to support them. Confusion creates hesitation. People will be hesitant to support you when they don't understand what that mission is. And like Chin was saying, it's important to be vulnerable. And it took a while for me to really tell my story and tell the health side of it. as to why I created Good Girl Chocolate, I was 16 years old when I was put on my very first blood pressure pill. And by the time I was 30, I was on 3. And I was diagnosed as a pre-diabetic. I was overweight as a child, always dieting, trying to lose weight. This is all a part of my story. So creating your story really don't overthink it. It's not a hard thing to do. And honestly, your story, um, the root of your story shouldn't change. Your pitch, can evolve and change, but that why, that really shouldn't change. It should be something like Chin said that you can really just sit down and say, hey, why am I here? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? And for me, it was because I wanted something sweet to eat after losing weight and finally getting control of my health. And there wasn't anything on the market that I could indulge in guilt-free that didn't have inflammatory ingredients in it. So once I really embraced being vulnerable and telling people, this is me, this is who I am, this is why I created Good Girl Chocolate, then it just made it easy. And the people who are interested in me or the people who are interested in you will lean into you and lean into your business and support you.
Absolutely. What you both said is so true. And I think sometimes as founders, we're go, 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 that we forget that, like, okay, stopping to really think about and clarifying this initial message, this initial why, can create growth in the future. It's okay to stop and just reflect for a minute, right?
Right.
Well, Tabitha, too, I want to stay with you for this next question. We do have some people here that are maybe just at the beginning stages of those businesses. So for someone who's still kind of figuring out that story, or is maybe feeling overwhelmed as they're trying to craft it, where would you suggest someone starts? I know, Chin, you mentioned just kind of writing and journaling down. Where would you suggest someone starts, Dr. Tabitha?
I would say, what do you do? Who do you serve? What are you going to do for the people that you serve? And then how are you going to do it? In my elevator pitch, I was able to get all of that into a 10-second pitch. And I'll break it down for you. Good Girl Chocolate is a dairy-free chocolate. What? Good Girl Chocolate is a dairy-free chocolate that supports all healthy lifestyles. We help women. Who do we serve? We help women with a sweet tooth satisfy their craving. What are you going to do for them? I'm going to satisfy their craving. And then how are you going to do it? With chocolate, with an all pleasure, no guilt chocolate experience. I think if you start there, you'll really start to create not just your elevator pitch, because there's a difference between your elevator pitch and your story. Your elevator pitch should be short. It should hit those points just like that. Your story, it can be 30 seconds, it can be 60 seconds, just kind of depending on what that audience is. But my advice is to make sure you have something if you have 10 seconds, make sure you have something that you can say in 10 seconds. If you have 30 seconds, make sure you have something that you can say in 30 seconds. If you have 60 seconds, make sure you have something that you can say in that amount of time.
It's so important, and love the framework, both to reflect and then also just a quick practical framework to use to really start practicing that story, right? All right, well, I want to move on kind of to the next challenge. So if you have your story, now the next challenge is really not only just being able to say it out loud using the framework, right? But also saying it with confidence. So whether it's customers, funders, someone you just met, let's talk about, how to show up clearly and how you adjust your message depending on who you're talking to. So I'd love to ask you both if you can share a tip or tool that helps you prepare for some of those high stakes conversations. Again, whether it's funders, buyers, the media, what's a tip or tool that helps you? Tabitha, you want to kick us off?
I have to go to my faith here. Something that helps me is prayer. Prayer gives me the peace that I need, the clarity, and the purpose. I go into a meeting saying, what's for me is for me. I'll give you a perfect example. In 2017, when I first created Good Girl Chocolate, I had never sold the chocolate before. And I had the audacity to apply to pitch to QVC, and I didn't have a website, never sold the chocolate. They had hundreds of applicants and they chose 30 people to pitch to them. And I was one of the 30 that pitched to them. And they said, the actual food buyer says, this is the best chocolate that's dairy free, that's, that I have ever tasted in my life. And they said, if we were to choose you to go on air, we don't think you would be set up for success because you've never sold it. So if we were to purchase 5,000 units and let's say you only sold 2,500, that means you're going to be in the red because you don't have any customers. You don't have anyone to sell the product, the other 2,500. So I ended up getting, a no, from them. But, because of time, I won't go into it. But in 2023, 2023, I appeared on QVC, not once, but twice, as the first dairy-free chocolate. So when I have that peace and that clarity, that clarity gives me confidence. That's all I need, because I'm not the same person as I was 3 or 4 years ago. I have that confidence in my product. And I think that's very important. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to have confidence in your product, and you have to have that clarity. That's going to give you that fuel that you need. But those three things, peace, clarity, and purpose, is what I always go into meetings with.
Similar to Tabitha, I always pray for purpose, and I pray that anything that I do is to serve God. So whether that means I take on a new client or I collaborate with someone, I want to make sure that my mission aligns with theirs and that we are on the same page about our purpose. Now, when it comes to preparing for a meeting or a pitch, I do a lot of research. That is the reporter in me, will always be the reporter in me. I research everything about the company, who the key players are in case I get to talk to them, and where they are lacking, so I can target where they are lacking. And I'll tell you, that has worked for me. I do my own marketing and media. However, I've also partnered with a couple of other marketing agencies that are big because I do what they don't do. And I was able to pitch to them about why our collaboration would benefit them. And now we're partners. And that's because I had a goal of who I wanted to work with, who I wanted my name to be associated with. And then I did research and found out where they were lacking and how I can complement them. And so when I came in with my pitch, they saw me as not a competitor, but actually as a teammate because I had something they didn't have. So that's been great for me to be able to do the same for my clients. When I say, if I could wave a wand and you could get any client in the world, who is it that you would want? We start researching we call it their client crush, right? Like that's their crush. That's who they want to go after, right? So then we target them and kind of know about their business background, where are they lacking, how can my client supplement them? And you got a win-win when they see that, oh, you bring value to us. You're not competing, you're bringing us value. We'll take you.
It's so important to, again, founder life, go, 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 but to really take the time to figure out like, what purpose do you have, right? Are you mission aligned, whether it's a funder or partner or whatever, and really taking the time to do your due diligence. You don't want to be desperate when you're coming into these conversations. And if you already know your purpose, you already know what you're for, what you're there for, what you bring to the table, then you can make those decisions a lot more clearly. So thank you both for mentioning that. Chen, I want to stay with you and ask, what's a tool or strategy founders can use when they are practicing their pitching? So say they have their story, right? They know who their crush is. What can they do to really practice that pitch so it doesn't feel awkward or forced?
So I answer this question a lot, especially when I was a reporter, and I would set up my interviews, and I would let my interviewee know, this is the time that we're coming, be ready and things like that. And they would get so nervous. Oh, this is my first time on TV, or like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I say, first of all, relax. Everything is going to be okay. And I think I tell them also to pretend that you're talking to someone who makes you feel comfortable, whether that's your grandma, your best friend, your partner, and just envisioning that you're talking to them. That then eases your mind of like, oh, I don't have to impress somebody, right? Because that's my best friend, that's my partner. They're going to love me no matter what. Then I tell them, never memorize your script, ever. Never memorize your script. Memorizing your script will throw you off when you get one word off. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, now, what word was I on? And then what? No, you don't memorize the script. You remember, keyword is remember the substance of that conversation or that pitch or whatever. You remember just the key points. Do not memorize the script. And then you're talking to your best friend, your partner, whatever. So it's very comfortable, right? And you're just remembering these are important things I wanted to say to this person. And you're saying it in your own words, and it's going to come off as very genuine, not robotic, not like AI typed it up for you. It's going to come from the heart, and that resonates with people. When people can tell that you're genuinely just sharing with them your passion, and you have a story to tell them, and you want to connect with them, it's going to be way different than feeling like they're pitched to. Nobody wants to be sold to, right? Nobody wants to be sold to. It's not a sales meeting. I see it as, our opportunity to share stories with each other. How can we connect? How can we help each other? It's how can I connect with you using my stories and my experiences?
So important not to memorize, and really, again, if you've taken the time to go through those reflections to really figure out that framework, then hopefully those are things that with more practice, right? I am definitely an introvert, and so I've had to really like get my extrovert out when we do these calls or when we're in front of founders. But the more you do it, right? The more you do it, the more you practice, the kind of easier it can come to you.
I was just going to add another thing, you should be practicing these things. Record yourself, give yourself feedback. I know it seems silly and you're going to record yourself, but before you talk to someone that's important or make a pitch, record yourself and time yourself. Do 30 seconds, do 1 minute, do 3 minutes, those type of things, and answer questions that might pop up. Go back and watch those. Give yourself feedback. How can you improve? Have a trusted mentor or a running buddy in your business watch these with you and say, hey, do I seem uncomfortable? What's your feedback? Like, what is your feel? Do I feel like genuine? Do I feel friendly? Do I feel open? What it is, whatever message and vibe and energy that you're wanting to convey, keep practicing until you get that. It takes, practice to become comfortable, and have a friend that you can practice these pitches to.
Love that. So important. I want to take a little break too. I want to have Jay hop on here and see if there was anything that is going on in the chat. I know you've had a couple of questions that you've dropped, so I want to take a chat break.
Yes. So, not sure if any the questions were answered, but we have had a lot of great comments. I love what Allison said. She said she's been a storyteller in her own, business and work, but now she wants to work on her own personal story. And I think that is also so important. And love that personal and business stories pitches are both important. I loved what Chin said about journaling and starting off and cutting it in half and then cutting that in half. It helps us realize that every single word in your pitch matters. And I love that. I love when Dr. Tabitha said clarity builds confidence, clarity builds trust. Maria loved that. I think it was Dr. Tabitha or Chin, I can't remember, said the story doesn't change, but the pitch does. So going back to pivoting and, evolving your pitch. And Jess also said, all pleasure, no guilt, chocolate experience. She said, I am so here for this. Sounds amazing, which I totally agree. Would love to see if anybody has any questions and open it up right now. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, raise your hand. But if there's any questions, please feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
So when y'all were talking about getting clear on your stories and being vulnerable and kind of considering all the things that have shaped you into who you are, I mean, I'm very clear on what those things are, but what I struggle with is there are so many things that have fed into like why I'm starting my business and why I'm wanting to do what I'm doing. And so what I have trouble with is condensing it all down. You know, it's like I have no problem being vulnerable. I would say if anything, I probably err on the side of too much vulnerability. So just I guess like any tips you have on kind of calibrating like what are the most important aspects to share when you're crafting like your pitch?
I would say go back to your mission statement and which one of those things that you mentioned that shaped you into who you are and propelled you into your business, which one of those most align with your mission and would resonate most with the people who you're trying to serve.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And for me, I basically condensed everything down into health challenges. Knowing that I was a pre-diabetic, anxiety, panic attacks, blood sugar, 300 pounds, all of these things just got condensed to, I created Good Girl Chocolate because of my past health challenges. It
Yeah.
could be that, that simple, but still know it. Chin mentioned, don't memorize it, but know it, because there are going to be times on podcasts where you don't need to condense it.
Mhm.
You can tell that full story of your why. But then there are going to be times where you're going to be on TV like Chin, and you got a minute and a half. So be able to condense it, but just know that you can use your story in some spaces, but then there'll be times where you'll just have to condense it down.
That's right.
Thank
Yeah, and
you.
again, think about your niche too. Also, like what I don't know much about your company, but is it like Tabitha's that is, kind of focused on health? Is it focused on, business coaching? Like what is it and how that aligns with the people you're trying to serve? And start out with navigating toward that realm of this is the category and these are my backstories that align with that category. And that's what your
Mhm,
focus would be for your short 10-15 second elevator pitch mission statement type thing.
mhm. Okay.
And know
Yeah,
your audience. Know
that
your audience. Exactly what she said.
that's okay. I think that's going to be a piece that's going to be challenging for me because my company is called Human First, and who I'm trying to serve is human beings who want to learn how to feel their feelings and communicate better. And I feel like that's everyone. So it's like, I don't know, just trying to figure out how to target that message in the right way, I guess.
So your target market is not everyone. I know we
Yeah.
Yeah.
always think that,
You don't want to be,
just like I
yeah,
think everybody loves chocolate. But everyone who loves chocolate is still not my target audience.
correct.
Yeah.
So your target audience just it's not everyone. But if you can figure out who that target audience is, by doing the steps that Chin mentioned earlier, about journaling and writing things down. Once you hone on to who that audience is, I think that will help you with your
Mhm.
story too, because your
Yep.
everyone is not your tribe.
I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I hate to say this, we can't help everyone. That
Mhm.
just would drain your energy. So really target who are the people you can help.
It makes me think about what Dr. Tabitha said, and I wrote it down in the chat if you want to write that same structure down. But one, what do you do? Two, who do you serve? Three, what are you doing for the people you serve? Four, how do you do it? And I think that is a great model to get started on. And then, you know, then with Chin's journaling exercise, with sharing vulnerability, like combining those, I think would create a lot of magic. So
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question, Jess. I'm going to finish out just my last two questions, and then I'd love to hear any other questions from the audience. So please be thinking of those. I'm sure they're going to share a lot more great nuggets of information here too. But I want to kind of close out these questions with just kind of really thinking more about that strategy piece, right? So we talked about, getting to the root of your why, then how to say that confidently. But now sometimes the stakes are really high, whether it's, you're applying for grants or you're doing pitch competitions or there are media opportunities. Your story really needs to cut through the noise that is out there. So let's talk about how to add strategy in those competitive spaces. And Chin, I think just kind of got us started with this question, but what kind of storytelling details and elements are there that founders can really use to make their pitch stand out?
So I'll give you some examples of no-nos and then learn by example.
Perfect.
Okay. I've had, when I worked in news, I would get hundreds of emails a day, and some of them for misspellings. So please proofread any pitches that you have and make sure that's professional, even if it's on social media. I think sometimes people think, oh, it's social media, I'll just send them something real quick. And I'm like, that's my first impression of you. And you just sent me a paragraph with no punctuation marks, misspellings and things like that. And I'm over here trying to decipher what you're trying to say because there's no punctuation marks. So it's like you took a deep breath all at once. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for that. So I'm not going to probably give that pitch any thought because I don't have time. If you didn't take the time to give me a professional pitch, and even took the time to research that I'm a woman, because I have a unisex name. It's a Vietnamese name. And I've gotten so many pitches, Dear Mr. Doan. And I'm like, so you didn't even look me up to see that I'm a woman, my background, any of that. You just blindly threw something against the wall and hoped that I was going to respond. And when journalists or whoever it is that you're trying to pitch to gets all these pitches, you need to make yours stand out. So first, professionalism, right? Misspellings and things like that, errors, you don't want that. Secondly, how are you pitching it? Is it how they want to be pitched? Is it through an email, social media? Is it a phone call? Is it a letter? Is it dropping by the office and dropping off, a PR package is what we call, a package that has your information, your news release, your photos, whatever it is that your product. Sometimes it's a product that, like good chocolate, we want to taste it, right? Something like that. This Tabitha is pitching, she's probably going to want to send off some chocolate to people that she wants to pitch to. That only makes sense. It's a food product. What am I supposed to taste it through paper? No, I want to taste it and see if it's something I want to have on my show, right? That makes sense. So you need to know who you're pitching to, how they want to be pitched to, and then how you want to convey your message, your product in an authentic and most effective way.
I love that. Yes. Yes. So, so important to do your research. And I think that's also too, like if you have this big, long drawn out message, being able to be concise to the point, like have a message that really sticks in that first sentence or two is so important no matter what platform you have. Again, our attention spans are so short. You got to make it stick right in the beginning. Well, Tabitha, I'd love to hear from you too. You've both actually had experience sharing your story in high stakes situations and public settings and competitive spaces. But Tabitha, what's one thing you've learned exactly about this, about keeping your story concise and still making it resonate?
Yeah, I go back to remember, confusion creates hesitation. So you have to have a concise story. Everything, I think Chin pretty much checked all the boxes when it comes to the research. But know your market. I saw a chat, a question, how do you know your target market? When you go into these high stakes meeting, you must know your market. So knowing, exactly what the problem is, what the problem you're solving is, the solution, the market opportunity is very important. The traction, all of that is very important. So you just have to be able to capture all of this in high stakes meetings. And also, you have to be able to pivot at a moment's notice. I'm good at talking about good girl chocolate. I can confidently say that. Not arrogantly say it, but confidently say it, because I've built up the confidence over the years. But when I premiered on QVC, before I went live, and I learned this like 10 minutes before I went live, I couldn't talk about my health challenges. So that means I couldn't talk about my story. They said, no, you can't say that. You can't say blood pressure. You can't say blood sugar. You can't say this. You can't say any of that. Right. You can't say plant-based, you can't say gluten-free, they told me all of these things, that I could not say, but I was still able to go live and kill it. I say all that to say, know your business inside and out, know your target market inside and out, know your market opportunities inside and out, know your audience. The reason why they didn't want me to say those things is because their audience is quality, value, convenience. They don't care about anything else. They do not care about dairy free. So why talk about it? They don't care about certain things. So it's very important that you know your target audience. One more thing. This actually happened when I was in the StitchCrew accelerator back in 2019, 2020, when we were together. Gabby, it was in Tulsa, 36 degrees north. I was pitching. I think we had like a speed networking things with VCs who came in, bust in, a whole bunch of them. Fun day. I was pitching. I did my elevator pitch. I followed the rules. And then when they found out that Good Girl Chocolate had been in the officials Grammys gift bag, and I was in the Grammys gift suite, and I was a Beyonce grant recipient and a Good Food Award finalist and all that, you know what they said? Why didn't you lead with that? Here I am thinking I'm following the rules. Good Girl Chocolate is a dairy-free chocolate, blah, 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 blah. None of that really mattered to them. They wanted to know what my accomplishments were. So just keep that in mind. Know your audience, know who you're talking to.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you both for such a great session. I'm going to bring us back into the group so we can kind of have more of a conversation with everyone. But super appreciate you all sharing your story, being vulnerable with us. A lot of great comments and stuff in the chat too. And I want to kind of give this time back to the audience in case there were other questions. And as you're kind of thinking about that, I do want to hit on a little bit of that target audience. What is the target audience? Because I think that is so important. Again, not only if you're talking to someone right then and there, are they a potential customer, employee, partner, right? But also, we see a lot of applications for our programs and things like that. And I think that is one thing that we always really look at is, do they know their target audience? And like you said, someone asked, how do you figure that out? I think you just have to go out there, aside from doing the research, because you can go out there and figure out after all this research that this still isn't my target audience and I have to pivot. So I think not only just doing a research, but going out there and seeing where this resonates, who it resonates with. Is it solving those pain points that you're hoping to solve? But with that being said, would love to hear any other questions, comments, takeaways from the audience.
I just wanted to add to what Jess was talking about and her audience. Because I've helped some people with their social media, and once they're able to target their audience, it becomes way more affordable and targeted messaging for them. For example, I helped my friend who's managing a weight loss clinic, and she was like, "Oh, I'm low on getting clients in." And I go, "Well, who did you target?" She goes, "Everybody, male and female." And I go, well, typically the females are more likely to adopt a behavior. They're going to be more, what do you call it, conscious of their appearance. And typically when the woman goes to the weight loss clinic, if she's doing well, the man will see it and then he'll be motivated to join her. The same with going to a gym. So I was like, just focus on that age group that is already coming to you and that are female, and try in these local areas, because they're like, you're going to be able to relate to them more if you're already more culturally appropriate, culturally in tune with them.
Yeah, and I get asked this all the time too with my marketing company, because my clients, of course, they want to succeed. So they think we want to target everyone. And I said, absolutely not. You do not want to target everyone. Everyone is not your audience. Think of it, like if you've ever placed ads on Facebook, Facebook asks you what location, what demographics, men, women, age group, and things like that, because this is going to help you not only be concise with your mission and your goals, but also with knowing how to read the numbers. Wanting everyone is not going to be helpful. Another example, in TV news, we track demographics on our viewers. We track down to this 4 p.m. newscast how many people watch it, how many of those viewers are women, how many of them are between the ages of 30 to 60, because that age group are the ones that are making the most decision when it comes to buying, right? So that number, the women between 30 and 60, is the number a lot of clients ask for when they're wanting to do a commercial with TV. They'll say, what is your viewers from 30 to 60 women? And that's who they're trying to target if they're selling a product. That makes sense, right? So if you were trying to sell a product, you don't want the audience number for everybody. Do you want how many 18-year-olds are watching the news? Not necessarily, because those are not decision makers when it comes to buying a product, right? So you need to know what is your business, who are you targeting, and then pursue that platform that has the biggest audience for your goal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maria and Chin, for those comments. I see a question too in the chat from Hilda, who says she struggles with confidence. So any advice on that? And Hilda, if you want to expand on that question, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. Hi Maria. I know Maria, she's amazing. Yeah, so I thought I used to get I thought I get nervous when I speak in public because English is not my first language, but then I realized I get nervous also in Spanish. So I organize a lot I used to organize a lot of events. I participate in the community, same as Maria. And even though I know some people, I think I get more nervous when I know some of the people. But now at my job, I see a lot of people with the tie, or I get nervous, or I feel like, oh, I better watch the words that I say. So I get nervous. I don't know if it is just in my mind, but it's hard. It's hard to get that confidence in me. So any advice?
It's absolutely okay to be nervous. I get nervous. We all get nervous. But what calms down my nerves is being 100% prepared. Being prepared and practice. That's really your secret weapon. Practice. Do you ever like practice in front of the mirror? You know, we call it, mirror work. Do you ever do those types of things?
No, I don't. And I don't prepare myself. I guess this is the reason I'm like that. And I'm a performer. You asked me to perform. I perform in a lot of audience, but when I have to speak, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to speak. And we're having a grand opening on August, and maybe we'll have like 150 guests. And I was asked that I need to prepare myself to make a speech. And I'm like, I want to be behind the cameras. But
Start writing your speech.
Exactly. But thank you for your advice.
So I would say, I obviously spent years talking in front of the camera on live TV, off the cuff, ad-libbing and things like that. And then now I help my clients before preparing for their interviews. And my background is makeup artistry and styling. So I actually do this makeup and styling for my clients before they go on TV and things like that. But some of my clients are, pageant queens and things like that. What I always tell them is you glow your best. Your best radiates when you are yourself. So that means also how you look is how you feel. So if that means putting on some makeup to look more awake, you're going to seem more awake, and you're going to be feeling more awake, and you're going to project that. If that means putting on your favorite blouse, your favorite color, if that means envisioning in your mind that you're talking to your best friend, someone you're so excited to tell about this new event that's coming up, Hilda, that means, whoever it is that is special to you, and you want to tell them about why this upcoming event is so special and why they should hear about it and why the world should care about it. That's how you should be envisioning in your head as you're standing up there, even if it's 150 people you don't know and 150 people who make you nervous staring at you. You're talking to somebody special, and this mission is special, and why they should hear you in talking about this subject. Think of it that way. Zone out these people in their ties and whatever, who if you're nervous about, these are important key players and what I say, it's really important. If I say something wrong, they're not going to fund me, or they're going to, leave with a negative impact. They're not, because it's coming from the heart and you're talking to someone who cares about what you're saying. So just think of it that way.
Thank you.
Need to do a practice run. If you're wearing heels and you get comfortable walking in heels,
Exactly.
the night before, put on those heels. Like Chin said, fix yourself up, make up all of that for yourself, and start practicing for yourself. And that's how you create mastery, is through practice.
Right. It might not be perfect, your speech might not be perfect, but you want to be comfortable. So wear something that makes you comfortable and makes you feel like yourself. Get good rest the night before, eat a good breakfast, pray before, if that's what helps you find some peace and motivation. When you're staring out there, and I know it can be scary, you're looking at all these faces staring back at you. Remember, it's not those people who you're talking to. It's people whose mission that you're trying to get the word out about and who you're helping. That's who you're talking to.
Thank you guys so much for all those incredible tips. And thank you, Hilda, for sharing and being vulnerable with us and sharing that question, because I feel like a lot of audience members really actually felt really seen when you said that. And I can tell from experience, again, introvert here, like have had to push myself to do this, even just talking to, a trusted friend before to kind of like hype myself up for even this workshop today, like practicing before. And then of course having like Dr. Tabitha, Chin here, who make this conversation so comfortable. Sarah, Jay, being able to look, have them here and have them with me. So thank you so much. You are not alone in feeling that way. I feel like a lot of founders, like that is actually the struggle, right? Of knowing your story, but then feeling that confidence in you. So be sure to also have a trusted group around you that can hype you up as well and let you know, like, it's okay if you have an accent. It's okay if you mess up that word. Like, your message is powerful, right? So don't forget to build yourself up and have a community that builds you up too.
It's okay to have fun and make light of a situation. If you stumble a word, joke about it. If you said something wrong, joke about it. It's okay. People want to see you as a human. And just like someone put in the chat, people want to see you succeed. So if you said something wrong or whatever, just make light of it and move on, and people will laugh and cheer you on.